3 in 10 Americans would give up sex if they could retire today. Think about that stat. We got an interesting article for you guys today. This article comes to us from a site called studyfinds.org. And it kind of, the title of it is, It's the Economy. An average American worries about finances this many times per day. Now, there's a lot of stats in this article, so we're going to go through it. I found it to be really interesting. I think they said the average person worries about money 6 or 7 times per day. But a lot of interesting stats in here. They kind of talk about how Gen Z or Zoomers started investing at a much younger age than any other generation. So when we talk about these kind of age breakdowns, Millennials are 25 to 40. Zoomers are obviously under 25. They would go from like 24 to 14, 13, 12, 11. I'm guessing like 10 to 24 or something like that. Gen X is going to be like 40 to 55. And then you have boomers who are going to be like 56 plus. But, investing has changed a lot over the years. Now we have apps like Acorn and Stash that allow people to, when you buy a coffee in the morning, the extra 40 cents gets rounded up and put into an investment account. And while that's not serious investing, I think it does get people interested and started with investing. A buddy of mine who I'd been trying to get into investing for a long time, started using Stash. And after about 8 months, he noticed he had like $1,600 in his account. Not only were all his purchases adding up, but the stock market has been going crazy the past couple years as well. And that was kind of what it took. He's like, oh, wow. He kind of saw how much that money compounds and grows, and it got him interested, and he started investing. So you have apps like that. I think cryptocurrency has brought a lot of people into investing. All these meme stocks and Wall Street bets got a lot of younger people investing. The past 2 years of the pandemic, we've, people have gotten stimulus checks. The amount of Americans as a whole, but especially younger generations, Gen Z and Millennials, who invested some portion of their stimulus checks into either the stock market or crypto has been huge. And seeing as how the stock market and crypto has been growing a lot, people have seen how much their money can grow. The number of people who've actually been able to retire off crypto, it's not like 50% of the population, but it's a pretty hefty percentage. So a lot of people have had a good experience with investing. Younger Millennials and Gen Zers have really never known anything but the stock market and crypto markets going up, 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 and up some more. So Zoomers got started investing earlier. One thing that kind of surprised me about this article, for those of you guys who watch this channel on a regular basis, over the years I've done a ton of these stories on the average American doesn't have $400 to withstand an emergency. Millennials aren't prepared for retirement. Nobody's prepared for retirement. Everybody's screwed financially. And it's almost become kind of a running joke that, anytime there's a slow news week or a slow day in a news cycle, they do some doom and gloom article about millennials or millennials seem to be the ones that get picked on the most. I think with every generation, the younger generation kind of gets pooped on a little bit. And I think that's definitely been the case with millennials. I think millennials have gotten it harder than other generations with all the talk of, millennials are entitled, millennials aren't saving, millennials still live with their parents. What I think is going to happen, right now, if you think about it, the youngest millennials are 25. In this day and age we're living in now, and with a lot of millennials having graduated into the Great Recession, they're a little bit behind previous generations. And so a lot of millennials, lived with their parents longer, worked in retail and weren't able to get traditional jobs until later in their careers, weren't able to invest, weren't able to buy homes. But oddly enough, even though we see all these doom and gloom articles, this article kind of says that millennials are the most optimistic about their financial futures. So there's a lot of interesting stats and things in this article. One thing I'd just like to point out, this website that we're looking at is called Study Finds. This is actually kind of a cool website. So Study Finds, they basically kind of consolidate all these surveys, all these studies about family, health, science, society, the environment. One thing I kind of like about this site, it's great to kind of spot trends. If they're doing studies on something, it kind of means it's kind of a hot niche or a hot area. But also, as a marketer or an e-commerce seller, you can a lot of times use these studies in your marketing efforts. So if we search like CBD, let's say, for example, you sell CBD, CBD helping some Americans battle stress and sleeping issues during 2020. So if I had a Shopify store and I sold CBD, maybe I would, take a screenshot of this article and send it out in some of my email marketing. And one of the cool things about using a site like this, a lot of times, especially with something like CBD, as a business, you're not allowed to really make claims, but you can kind of let these studies and articles kind of make claims for you. So let's just say, example, there was a study that found that 7 out of 10 people who take CBD don't deal with joint pain or don't have back issues. I could send it out as, part of my email marketing, be like, check out this interesting article about CBD. The article or the study itself kind of sells people on the idea of CBD. And then maybe I put a link to my product at the bottom of that email. So this Study Finds website is, it's a great resource if you're a content creator, if you're a blogger, if you have a YouTube channel, like I'm doing right now. You can make content about these studies. If you are a marketer or own a Shopify store, you can do that. I don't know let's see if they have anything about blue light glasses. I know a lot of people are selling blue light glasses right now. We're getting a little bit off topic here. Wearing blue light filtering glasses can improve work productivity and sleep. I'm guessing this study talks about how much productivity went up when people started wearing blue light glasses. So again, I could put something like this on my website or use it in my marketing. But in today's article, we're talking about this article about the economy. So new survey reveals 3 in 10 people would give up bedroom romps for the ability to retire today. That's pretty crazy. I wonder how many people would actually do that if push came to shove. If you're a younger person and you haven't yet had kids, assuming you want to have kids, that means you could not procreate if you had to give up sex. The other thing they don't talk about, does this include how do I say this delicately? Does this include doing activities with yourself? Can you Can you doodle your own noodle, or is that not allowed if you decide to take this deal and retire in order to give up sex? I'm not sure. But let's hop into this article. Let's talk a little bit about, millennials are considered they're called the Oregon Trail generation, or at least older millennials. And what that kind of refers to, they grew up playing Oregon Trail. But one thing that's interesting about millennials, even younger millennials, is millennials kind of grew up, they're kind of a hybrid, right? Millennials grew up in kind of an analog generation, pre-computers, pre-internet. I don't know if you want to say pre-computers, but pre-internet. And but they still had internet in their late teens, mid to late teens, early 20s. So it's kind of like they grew up without cell phones and the internet, but then at the same time, they did get it at a young enough age to where they could still kind of adopt technology and things like that. And it's a lot different than, say, Gen Zers, who pretty much grew up with Facebook, grew up with Instagram, grew up with tablets in their hand, grew up, getting cell phones at 7 years old. So kind of a mismatch between these two generations, but millennials are kind of an interesting generation because they've kind of had the experience of both of these worlds. And then in terms of why a lot of these articles kind of pick on millennials graduated into, or older millennials graduated into the 2008 financial crash. Made it hard to get jobs. A lot of jobs were firing people. And what wound up happening is a lot of jobs that traditionally would have been good, solid entry-level jobs that people fresh out of college would have taken. You had older workers who'd been laid off from other jobs, or people who had retired and wound up having to go back to work because the stock market crashed. And, these people wound up taking a lot of the jobs that previously would have been done by recent graduates. So you wound up having a lot of millennials who were not working in their industry, who were not using their degrees, who were working retail into their mid or even late 20s before the economy started recovering, and more jobs came back. More people wound up retiring as the stock market wound up improving, and it just kind of freed up a lot of these jobs. So millennials kind of had a late start in getting started with their careers and earning decent money. And because of that, they weren't able to buy houses at as young of an age, which is one of the main ways that people develop and grow wealth. They also weren't able to invest in the stock market. So even though we had a really strong stock market recovery pretty much from like 2009 till today, if you're working a minimum wage job check to check, it's not like you really have money to buy a house when houses were cheap or invest. And really kind of reap the rewards of that. And then, now for the past 2 years, we've had COVID, which has shaken things up again. Even though the stock market has been doing really well, it has affected people's job prospects. But let's hop into this article. We'll kind of discuss this as we go through here. Budgets are tighter for millions of people with 2022 in full swing. Oh, and one other thing I was going to say. I think so. These days, it seems like when you get, people graduate from college, maybe some people at 21, 22, other people, maybe it's 24, 25, maybe people take a year off to travel before getting a job. Maybe people wind up working retail before finding a job that they really like. So Zoomers, even though they are kind of entering the workforce, maybe in their first year, 2 years, 3 years of working, for the most part, they're still relatively young. So I think as Zoomers start getting into the workforce, I think the kind of the hate from Millennials might shift to Zoomers or Gen Z. I think they're kind of the next generation to be picked on. But the young Millennials are still kind of at an age where they're starting their careers. Budgets are tighter for millions of people with 2022 in full swing. Being money conscious is nothing new for many of us, but research shows the average American worries about their finances 6 times per day. And think about it, maybe you get a text message saying that your water bill's due. Maybe it's when you don't have money to buy lunch, but pretty much every time, if you're tight on money, think about how important money is in your life, how many times money issues come up each day, and every time something comes up that you have to spend money on, whether you get a flat tire, your water heater goes out, you wind up needing to buy a new pair of pants for work, or just some unexpected medical expense or dental expense comes up. Every time you have to spend money, it's going to be stressing you out. This was a poll done of 2,000 adults to help uncover how people feel about finances, and it also finds that millennials are more focused on their finances than any other generation. They also worry about money the most, up to 7 times per day. So, the older millennials are getting to an age when, a lot of people, don't even start really thinking about retirement until they're about 40. Obviously, you should start, in my opinion, if you have a company who's going to do a 401k match for you, you should absolutely take advantage of it, even if you're 21 years old. You're basically passing up free money if your company offers a 401k match and you don't take them up on it. But I think a lot of the older millennials are reaching an age where even if you didn't get started investing younger, you're at an age where okay, you really got to start thinking about it now. Overall, respondents agreed millennials 30%, Gen Z 22% are better at managing their finances than their Gen X and baby boomer counterparts. Additionally, millennials are the most optimistic, 78%, about where their finances will be in 10 years, while boomers are the least optimistic, 57%. And here's what's kind of interesting about this. So we've done a lot of stories about this in the past, and millennials are actually way behind older generations in terms of where they were at the same age. By the time baby boomers were 30 years old or 40 years old, they owned homes at a much higher rate than millennials do. They had much more money in investments. They had much more money put away for retirement. And Gen X, while not as well off as boomers, were way ahead of millennials. So millennials are way behind the other generations. Millennials seem to be more concerned about their finances, more responsible about their finances, but are still way behind previous generations. And obviously, we're living in a different world. A lot of baby boomers, at least the older ones, grew up where, somebody could, a household could have one person working a retail job or a factory job and wind up supporting a family, have a house and 2 cars. And today, you're not going to be able to do that working retail or working most factory jobs. But I thought that was pretty interesting. Let's see here. Managing your money responsibility. Of all generations, millennials feel the most confident about their finances, 79%, followed by boomers, 65%, and Gen X, 71%. Gen Z are the least confident in their financial skills, which is kind of interesting because they're getting started investing at a much younger age, but they're more concerned about their finances, and I think that's understandable. The cost of college education is insane. The levels of inflation we're seeing right now are insane. Look at what a used car costs. Look at lumber prices. Look at supply chain issues. Look at our workforce. It's, there's just, I can't blame Zoomers for being worried. Commissioned by a firm and conducted by one poll, the study revealed 6 in 10 Americans agree that living through the pandemic has made younger generations smarter about their finances than their older counterparts. And I think you can kind of attribute a lot of things to that. Like, I think finances have gotten a lot more fun. You're also no longer having to like manually balance a checkbook. There's apps that can, put out colorful charts and things like that. But with like I said, apps like Acorn and Stash and Robinhood and Wealthfront, it makes investing a lot more fun and a lot easier. And Robinhood actually adds elements of gamification to it that I think they're actually kind of getting in trouble for. But that's a story for another video. For example, Gen Z respondents seem to start investing their savings earlier than any other generation. The results found 42% of Gen Z started or plan to start saving by age 25, compared to 28% of millennials, 24% of Gen Z, and 17% of boomers. The survey also looked at financial anxieties and the biggest hurdles each generation faces when it comes to finances, with money being the top source of anxiety for many Americans. The data revealed 43% of respondents would give up drinking alcohol for 5 years to retire today, while 3 in 10 would give up sex or their friendships. That's pretty crazy to think about. If you give up sex, drinking, and your friends, what are you going to do in retirement? Just like the famous Beatles song, Money Can't Buy Love, unless you're a millennial, it turns out, over half, 51% of millennials say the ability to manage their finances is the top thing they look for in a partner, compared to a sense of humor for Gen Z, and for Gen Z, Gen X, and baby boomers. So that's interesting. When looking for a romantic partner, all respondents agreed that a partner's ability to manage their finances, 45%, and their financial stability, 45%, are more important than their physical appearance, 39%. Furthermore, those actively in the market for a partner, 68% would break up with a partner if they manage their finances poorly. Overspending is also a top concern across generations. More than half the poll, 56%, often overextended their spending and are left in difficult financial positions. The number one habit that harms respondents' budgets is making impulse purchases, 41%, with ordering takeout, 38%, going out with friends, 34%, and getting hit with late fees, 34%. So that's kind of interesting. As far as impulse purchases, just like a little trick that, I'm pretty cheap, I'm pretty frugal naturally, but some things that, if you struggle with making impulse purchases, some things that you can do, one would be sleep on it before making a purchase. If you're out at Target or Best Buy or Micro Center or wherever else, and you're thinking about making a purchase, rather than making the purchase on the spot, tell yourself, I'm going to go home, I'm going to maybe read some reviews, research prices a little bit, sleep on it and think about it, and then if you still want the item tomorrow, come back and get it. But I'm guessing 6-7 times out of 10, you're not going to wind up coming back to get the item. I think a lot of people wind up making impulse purchases to kind of get that dopamine rush, to feel good, especially in the, one thing I was just complaining to my girlfriend the other day, over the last 2 years with the pandemic and everything locked down, there's very few things to do. Like, now we're seeing a lot more things open up. My state is a lot more locked down than other states. But, on a snowy day or rainy day, I might go bowling. And for the past couple of years, you haven't been able to go bowling. I might go, you can go to parks and things like that. But I was just kind of complaining that, over the past 2 years, like, if you want to get out of the house and go do something, really the only thing you can do is, like, go walk around IKEA, go walk around Target, go walk around Walmart. And even though I'm not a very consumeristic person, even though I'm not really into consumerism, I don't buy much stuff. Like, if my buddy's off on a Friday and I got nothing to do, I might be like, hey, you want to come hang out? We might smoke a couple joints. And just to get out of the house, we might go walk around IKEA or something like that. So I think these past 2 years have caused a lot of people have gotten better about saving and kind of changed their priorities at how they look at consumerism and buying things. But there's really not much to do besides shop these days. As far as ordering takeout, I see so many people using Grubhub in these apps, and I always complain about them. Even if I'm not eating and a friend of mine orders takeout, I'll offer to go get the food just because I hate these apps. I feel with like Grubhub, Uber Eats, not only do I never get the right food, not only is the food always cold, not only is something always missing, but the cost of your meal is like 30 or 40% higher as opposed to if you ate in a restaurant or even went and picked up the food yourself. And I've kind of turned a lot of my friends against these apps, not only because the food's always wrong, but is it really that hard to spend 5 minutes to go pick up the food and save yourself 30 or 40%? These apps just make it way too easy to get takeout. And I know, some of my friends like live off these apps. As far as going out with friends, it's fun to go out with friends every once in a while. but it's always a situation where somebody orders a bunch of drinks and appetizers, and then you guys always wind up splitting the bill evenly. I've gotten a lot of my friends into kind of having dinner parties or getting takeout and kind of eating together at the house as opposed to going out. And if you can do those couple of things, you're probably much less likely to get hit with these late fees that account for the 34% of people who are experiencing money troubles. As respondents navigate the urge to overspend, the survey finds Americans are relying on pay over time solutions to stay on budget when shopping. Nearly half of Americans, 49%, and 68% of millennials specifically won't complete a purchase if a store does not offer pay over time. And that's pretty interesting. I have another video that came out. I actually haven't posted it yet, but this one's probably going to get posted on Saturday. The other one's going to get posted on Friday. So I had a video with lessons and takeaways from the holiday shopping season of 2021 and Black Friday. And in that video, we talked about how buy now, pay later, apps or payment services like Sezzle, Affirm, Afterpay have really exploded this past year and really over the past couple of years. And that's kind of crazy. 68% of millennials won't make a purchase if a company doesn't allow them to pay over time. What does that tell you for those of you guys who are e-commerce sellers? Well, you may want to offer Sezzle, Afterpay, Affirm, something like that on your store. I always like reading the comments of articles. I think oftentimes they're more interesting than the articles themselves. So let's see what people have to say. Americans constantly worry about money because they are slaves to their workplace. This is how American society is designed, a slave state that offers stupid people an illusion of freedom. Retardo land. And this is very true, and I think this is one thing that the pandemic has kind of changed for a lot of people. A lot of people, okay, I'm going to eat out a lot. Okay, I'm going to buy the nicest clothes. I'm going to buy a nice car. I'm going to buy a bigger house than I need, that I'm then going to have to buy things to fill that house up with, and that I'm then going to have to pay to heat this giant house that, I've talked about this in videos before. If you look at heat maps of houses, they've done some studies on this. Somebody has like a McMansion, like a 3,200 square foot house. On average, they spend like 89% of their time in like 7% of the house, right? They're in the kitchen, in the bedroom, and the bathroom, and it's pretty much the only rooms that they use. I'm in kind of a small house. My house is about 1,050 square feet. I moved to this house from a house, basically a McMansion, that was about 3,200 square feet. And while I do miss having the extra space to work out or to store junk or whatever else, I mean, ultimately, when we bought this house, me and my girlfriend were talking. We're like, what's the, it's great to have a nice big house, but I'm going to wind up spending an extra $100,000. Then I'm going to spend tens of thousands of dollars to buy furniture and other junk to fill these rooms that rarely get used. Maybe it's cool once a year when we have family over for the holidays or when you have a guest, but like, why am I going to pay to outfit a house, to heat this giant house where none of it's getting used? It's nice having a smaller house, being able to clean it up nicely, and it kind of forces me to stay somewhat minimalistic. Johnny Blade Clark says, so 3 in 10 aren't getting any sex, so they wouldn't be giving anything up. That's an interesting thing about younger generations. Among millennials and even Gen Zs, testosterone levels among men are falling. Your grandpa probably had 3 to 4 times the testosterone that you have. That's due to a lot of things. Maybe it's due to kind of the pussification of society. It's due to the foods we eat, microplastics, a more sedentary lifestyle. But if you want to boost your testosterone levels, get out to the gym, guys. Get out to the gym. Eat healthy, clean foods. There's something called the raw diet where you only eat real foods, no processed junk. Try to avoid microplastics. Don't drink out of water bottles. Get a refillable, water jug or something like that. One of the best things you can do for testosterone levels is not only working out, but lifting heavy weight with your legs. So do leg presses, do squats. That's going to have an amazing ability to raise your testosterone levels. Try to keep your stress low. Try to get plenty of sleep. And then there are some herbs and supplements you can take. Ashwagandha is a great one for relaxation. It's going to lower your cortisol levels, can boost your testosterone up to 100 points. Tongkat Ali is another great one that has the ability to boost your test level 300 or 400 points. Joe Rogan's talked about that one. But men's testosterone levels are dropping like crazy. So maybe that's why people are willing to give up sex. Let's see, reality. 30% of Americans are not having sex and have no friends to lose. I do think people have gotten more... communities aren't really communities. People don't look strangers in the eye. People don't say hello to people. Everybody's so wrapped up in their phones. Vox Veritas, a new study reveals 3 in 10 people would give up bedroom romps for the ability to retire today. In related findings, 7 in 10 people revealed that they would give up retirement for sex. Let's see, my wife and I never think of finances. We worked hard. We bought what we could afford. have taught the same values to our growing children. Americans used to keep a positive family budget. Government needs to control the nation's budget the same way. Lead by example. Government spending is all out. Pigs at the trough. No discipline, just greed, and politicians confiscate money of hardworking Americans to buy votes of the lazy. That needs to be called robbery. Now it is called social infrastructure. I think you have it backwards here. The government is elected by the people. To say that the government should set a good example for people is to say that your kids should set a good example for you. Perhaps the average person needs to think about getting a job 7 times a day. I saw job numbers for December just came out, and they were abysmal. It was like 199,000. Let's see, what else do we got here? 80% of all labor is completely unproductive. Why get on that slave train? And, that's one thing, that is one thing about American society that somebody has pointed out. Through marketing, through a lot of things, we're kind of taught to spend. Remember, even after 9/11, it was like spend to save the economy. I think the pandemic has made a lot of people realize that, maybe I shouldn't buy all this useless bullshit. Maybe I shouldn't eat out as much. Maybe it would be nice to spend less money, sacrifice a little bit on having those quote-unquote nice things. Most of those quote-unquote nice things you really don't even need, and will probably realize that didn't even really bring you that much happiness. But if you spend less money, you don't have to make as much money, and if you don't have to make as much money, that means lower stress. That means, more time for hobbies and leisure activities, more vacation, more time with friends. Let's see. Is that all it would really take? What about the word perhaps? Let's see. Okay, this just seems like people arguing. I love badly designed surveys and the faulty conclusions 43% of the time. It's going to get worse as the dollar drops in value. Every government's money is being robbed by their own governments. It's time to get privacy cryptos, Pirate Chain, Monero, and Darrow. It's going to get a lot worse because America is dead as a nation, killed by Republican disease. So, yeah, looks like that's kind of the end of that story. I thought this one was kind of interesting. I thought there were some good stats and takeaways. I'd love to hear, what is your guys' kind of general attitude towards money? Are you frugal? Are you aiming for a young retirement? Are you into the FIRE movement? Are you into crypto? Are you into stocks? How has the pandemic kind of changed how you view money, how you view your lifestyle, how you view investing, how you view crypto? Would love to hear your guys' thoughts on any of this. Would you give up sex if you could retire today? Let me know your guys' thoughts on this. Drop a comment down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below, ring the bell, and we'll catch you on the next video. Later, guys.